Right. Welcome everyone to live class. Today's live class is about, as I said earlier, we are building a very simple web application, a very simple blog application. So at the end of this live class, we would have gone through creating a virtual environment, creating a new Django app, creating a new application. Creating a new Django project, creating a new app in your Django project. Would have gone over URLs, would have gone over views and models, right? I know you've probably done all these in your courses last week and this week. And also we'll go over how to add your models to the admin and how to render some dynamic content from your database to a template. That is, we are going to be working with the templates, creating an HTML file. And in that file, we render our content. So yeah, let's get right into it. So first of all, we are creating a new app. So whenever I want to start a new project, personally, I love to create a repo first, right? So the first thing I always do is I go to GitHub, create a repo, and then I clone that repository into my VS Code. So let me start off with that now. GitHub. Please can you confirm if you can see my browser screen? Anyone, please?
Yes, we can see it.
We can. All right, so I'm creating a new let us call it blog. Okay, fine. And then public initialize with readme and also add a git ignore. So GitHub provides us with templates for each language. Now I'm going with Python. So these two files are created automatically and initialized with our repo. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, great. So we have the repo created and I'm going to clone it into my VS Code now. So I copy this link, right? And I go over to VS Code. And then, yeah, click on git clone, paste in the URLs and enter. So I'm on a Linux environment, right? I'm on a Linux environment right now. So most of the commands, like all of the commands, are going to be Linux commands. So some might be different. For example, activating your virtual environment is going to be different to your Windows user, right? Okay, great. So I have the files in here. So this is the git ignore that was initialized earlier for Python, and also I have the readme. So first thing I want to do now is open up my terminal and create a new virtual environment. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be making use of ppm. ppm is another type of virtual environments that we can use. We can also make use of virtual env and also ppm. So to use ppm, I'll just do ppm, right? You notice I'm already like in the terminal opens up in my directory. So I'll do ppm shell, right? So before this, you would have to have ppm installed. Probably I should have run that first. To install ppm, you would need to run pip3, right? Install ppm. Right, but probably because I have it installed already, it's going to say requirements already satisfied. Then I run ppm shell. again. So it creates the virtual environment for my project and it activates it. So you notice it is activated. Please, can you see my screen very well? Or is this large enough, or should I? Okay, I don't know. There's seems people are not responding. I don't know what's happening.
Can you do the can you repeat the gig, how you did the cloning, the gig clone? I think you were going very fast, so
yeah. So yeah, of course. Okay, so what I did was I created a repository on GitHub, right? I created this repository and then I copied the URL to the repository from here, copied, and I came into my VS Code. You could also run the command git clone, right? Git clone, right? You could do this, but VS Code offers like
not right now property.
Sorry, sir. Okay, so VS Code offers like an option in our command palette to clone our repo. So we just paste in the URL in here. So when you come to your command palette, you search for git clone, right? Git clone, and then you paste in the URL and enter. So it will ask for the folder in which you want to save it, and then it opens up. So what I did next, is that clear?
okay, yeah, that's clear. Yeah, I was getting the folder, but I wasn't too sure.
Okay, great. So and then I moved on to the virtual environment part. So I said I'll be making use of pipenv, which is almost the same with what's it called, virtual environments. So you can check that out, right? pipenv. So pipenv is also another type of virtual environment. So I installed it. You install it with pip3 install pipenv, right? So if you're on Windows, you probably just need to do pip install pipenv. Okay. So and then I went ahead and did pipenv shell. So what pipenv shell does is it creates the virtual environment and activates it. Like it creates the virtual environment and then goes ahead to activate. So that's like 2 commands. So automatically it activated the virtual environment when I ran pipenv shell. So now we're in our virtual environment and we would want to install now Django, right? So we go ahead and do free install. Okay, so because we are in a pipenv environment, right? If we are installing any dependencies or if we are installing any packages, right? We would want to install with pipenv install, because then it automatically creates like something related to a requirement.txt, right? So where it adds in those packages that were installed. So this pip file stores like the packages that were installed, and it's useful for maybe collaboration, right? So when I do pipenv install Django, it automatically adds the Django package to install packages. So in contrast, if I only use maybe pip install Django, then I'll have to start creating a requirement file, and then I'll run pip freeze and stuff like that to update it. So pipenv install Django, and then it installs Django and adds it to packages installed. So let's wait for this to run. So let's take a while. So while we're waiting for this to install, is there any question?
So when I try the pipenv install Django, it's giving me an error. It says it's not pipenv, it's not recognized as an internal external command.
Yeah, so I said you would have to install it if you are going to make it up, because I already have it installed. That was why.
Oh, okay.
So you need to run pip3 install ppm, right? Or pip install ppm. So yeah, Frederick, did you get that?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
What was any other question before we continue?
Yes, did you, I didn't understand why you said you would use pip freeze.
Pip freeze. Okay, so I was saying, pip freeze is like to list out your packages, install dependencies. So when I did pip freeze, it lists out like packages I have installed, right? So and it's useful when you also want to like create a requirement for pip freeze and you want to like add these packages to your requirement. So you just do pip freeze greater than sign requirements dot txt. So when you run this command, right, it creates the requirements file and then it adds all of those. Yeah, so it adds all of those packages into the requirements file, right? So it's just the same thing with the pip file. But the pip file, what it does is it also stores the packages, right? So I have Django installed, and also because I installed Django with the command ppm install Django, so it adds the Django package in here. So it's just the same thing, right? Jalal, did that answer your question?
Let me just make sure I understood you. So pip freeze is not something that you have to run, but if you want to make sure that you have all the packages that go with pip, you will run pip freeze for that.
So probably you are right, and you want to make sure you have all your installed packages in your requirement.txt, right? So you can just run pip freeze to check that what you have in your requirement.txt is what you have installed. If not, then you need to update the requirement.txt with this command, right? So pip freeze, what it does is it adds all of those requirements listed earlier into your requirement.txt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And your sorry.
Okay, so for more simplicity, pip freeze is a command you run when you want to check all your dependencies, all your packages, the packages you have installed on your local machine or on your virtual environment. Now, when you run the pip freeze greater than requirement.txt, it adds those dependency in a txt file. So what it does is it just creates a new txt file for you. Now, the reason why that is important is because let's say you have you push your code, your project to GitHub. Let's say you push all your projects to GitHub, including the virtual environments, the ppm, and someone wants to work on your projects. I don't know the Python version you are using. I don't know the Django version you are using. So what I do is when I clone your projects, when I clone your Django projects, when I run a command, there's a command you run. I think I've actually forgotten the command, but what it does is it downloads, it checks the requirements.txt file, and it downloads the same dependencies inside that requirements.txt file. So when it downloads the dependencies in the requirement.txt file, I have the same dependency the developer that worked on that project had. So I don't know if you understand. So the requirement.txt file is just a txt file. It doesn't really do anything besides notifying the person that is using the project later on that these are the dependencies in that project. I don't know if anyone understands.
So I think you're saying that I think I understand that. Requirements.txt file is just a list of all the dependencies so that anybody else working on the project with me can see or can download those same dependencies to have the same type of environment to work in. But I think I got confused again with just pip freeze itself. So without pushing that information into the txt file, if I just run pip freeze, that's just going to list everything for me. Or does it actually install anything? Or
No,
does
no,
it
no,
just
lists
display?
it for you. Yeah, it just lists it for you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah, great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. So if there's another question, then we'll move on. Right. So we've installed Django in here, and the next thing for us is to create our project. So to do that, we run the command to start our project, which is Django admin start project, and give it a name. Let's see, my blog, right? So it creates the my blog project with all the other files in it, and then right. So and then we want to go ahead and start our project to see if it's working. So to do that, we have to change directory into where we have the manage.py, right? So we change directory into my blog, and then yeah, we can now run the Python manage.py on server. Okay, says the port is okay. I have a project running already. I think I need to start and run this again. Yep. So right, so we've started a new project and we're going to start up our server. So if we go to our browser now and try to access the locals, then we have this, we have successfully started a new project, right? So that's great. Any question? No question, right? So we move on to create a new application, right? So to create a new application, then we run Python manage.py. But you have to you notice when I run the Python manage.py command, in this directory that has the Python manage.py file, right? So you have to be in that folder, or you have to be in that directory before the command can run. So Python manage.py start app to create a new app, and then we can call that blog, right? So Django creates a new app for us with some files, the init file, which tells us that this is a Python package. This folder is a Python module, and then we have the admin to register our models. We have the apps.py, we have the models, which in here we're going to create models, and we have the test.py to write test and views, right? So first thing we want to do is to create our models, right? So we want to create a blog web application, and for that we would need to like store some data in our database. So in a blog, right, the main action that we do in a blog is to create like posts. So then we have to create like a model for posts, and we also add some fields, right? So we define class posts and passing models dot model, right? So the first thing we would want to impute here, first thing a post would have is title. Like we want to have a title, we want to have a body, we probably want to have an author, right? The author of the post, and what else? We would want to have the date it was created, and also we want to add updated, right? Date updated, peradventure we edited the post. And what else can we have in here? Am I missing out anything? Okay, so Jelly has, there's a YouTube channel. When, yeah, so after the live class, the video will be updated to YouTube and the link will be shared on the channel, right? The link will be shared. So, yeah, so what other, that's all right. So, yeah, let's just work with it. So for the models, I mean, for the author, that is like a user. So that would be models dot. Okay, so because Django has like an inbuilt user models, probably I have to open up the documentation here because I don't think I'll do it before. So Django. So there's like an inbuilt user model in Django that we can easily use to like create a new user. So to do that, so you can just read more on that on the documentation, though I'm going to implement it now. So the inbuilt user model is yeah, we can make use of that. And okay, so let me just go ahead and import that user model, right, with this command. Right, so this like gives us the ability to create a new user in our app. So you know, on the norms, if you are creating an application, you have to like write the logic to create the user, and you have to start defining some things. But like Django already handles that for us. Though this can be customized, we can customize it later. We can do some other things, you know, to suit our needs. But with this for now. With this, we'll be able to create like an admin user, a super user. So so this is going to be a foreign key, right? Models of foreign key, and we're passing in user. So this field is storing the ID of the author that created the post, right? So, and this will be, is anyone following? I need to hear voices. So I will know, so I will not speaking to myself.
Yes, we're here. We're following.
Yeah, I'm following.
At any point, if you have a question, please just stop me and ask, right? So, yeah, so we pass in the user. So this is going to store the ID of the user that creates the post, and then move on to delete cost models dot cascade. So this will be made available on GitHub, right? So after this live class, I'm going to push this code to GitHub because you know I already created the repo earlier, so I'm just going to push this back to be made available. So as I said earlier, the title, the post will have a title, right? And that is going to be a char field. So I know like Any already went over all this in his last class. So and it's going to take like a max length, let's just say of 30, right? So, and the body also will be models dots. That probably will be a text field because you would want to import like more text in that, and then dates created will be models dots date time field. Okay, and want to auto now add probably will do the same for date updated. So just copy this, paste this here, right? So if you're wondering why I have all these lines in here, it's because my Django IntelliSense is not working for some reason. I don't know. So you can create models in the views.py as well as models. No, the views.py is used to like create logic for our app, and also to return to render data back to the templates or to the screen, or to I want to render it to. Right. Hope that answers your question. So we're done creating our models, and the first thing we'd want to do is to make migrations and migrate. So we'll go ahead and run Python manage.py, make migrations. Okay, so we're supposed to oh yes, I know why. Because when we created the new app, right, we're supposed to have registered it in here. So it's very important that you always add your apps when you create them in here, right? So yes, let's run this again, and we should have changes detected. Am I missing anything in?
Is it because you're in the views.py file?
Oh, okay, I was creating it in the views.py. Now I get your question. Okay, right. So it should be, let's just copy this, right? Thank you for that. I'm just seeing it now. So it should be in your models.py file, right? Yes. So yes. So it should be in your models file. Yes. Okay. Yeah, this should work then. Thank you for that. So yeah, so it works. It creates the model, and then we want to migrate. Yep. So what this does, it goes to the database and creates like tables for this model, right? And then we'll be able to perform our operation. We're able to perform the CRUD operation, create a new post, read, that's like get, then update and delete. So right, so we've created our model, and for this project, right? So let me quickly divert a little. When you create a new Django app, Django comes with a database already, which is the SQLite 3 database, right? So, and I'm sure you have already taken courses on database, right? MySQL, Postgres, and database. So you can also integrate those, right? So if you check the Django documentation for databases, there are settings that there are like tutorials or documentation on how you can set your databases. So Django supports Postgres, MariaDB, MySQL, or SQLite. So each of these has their own settings. You can easily go through the documentation to integrate those. So, but for these projects, I'm just going to work with already installed database, which is SQLite 3, right? So yeah, and now we want to. So next thing for us is to register our application in admin.py. Before I move forward, does anyone have a question to ask? Okay, fine. So to register, we would want to import the models first. So from .models, because we're importing from the same directory, import our post, which is the name of our model. And then to register an app, admin.register site. Hope I got that right. Posts. So yeah, so that is how register your model. So when you like create a super user and then you view it from the admin dashboard, you would see this, right? So now let's create a super user so we'll be able to log in to our admin. And before that, let me just run. So let me just start the server. Okay, so I have to change to, right. So yeah, so what just happened was because I was not in the same folder as managers.py, so I just had to change to the directory where I have the managers.py file and run this again. Yeah, so yeah, I was expecting it. So it says you have an error on line 5 admin just register, says function object as post. Okay, so I probably wrote that wrong. So it should be admin.site.register, not admin. Yes. Okay, great. So it works now. And yeah, so to access the dashboard, we just go to the localhost endpoint /admin, right? But we won't be able to log in into the admin dashboard because we don't have a super user yet. So we want to go ahead and create a super user. To do that, we run Python manage.py create super user, no spaces, just one word, create super user. Enter. And it's going to ask for a username. As I said earlier, we are making use of the inbuilt Django user models, right? So it asks for the username, and I want to set this to admin. It asks for email address. I just want to put admin at probably blog.com. And then password, I set that to anything. Enter. So successfully created a super user. Now we can log in into admin dashboard with the credentials we created. So the user name is admin, and also the password, I left that at admin. And now we'll be able to log in into the admin dashboard, and we can see that we now have the post we added earlier. So if I remove this, if I remove this, then I should not be able to see the post here anymore. Yep. So, and if I add that back, should here. All right, so that's how you register your app to be able to view. Now from your admin dashboard, right, you can perform all of these operations I said earlier. You can create a new post, right? Yeah, so the fields we created earlier shows author, the title, the body. So if you fill in these details, we'll be able to create a new post. We'll be able to edit earlier. We'll be able to like delete. We can perform all of those operations from the admin dashboard. So, but I'm just going to show you how you can render details from this database to not to your admin dashboard now, probably to another endpoint in your app. So okay, so we want to go ahead and create some posts, right? We only have one author, and then can say title, classes and objects. This is the blog on classes and objects, and let's copy these and blah, blah, blah. Right. So we want to save and add another. Right. So okay, so let's see Python loops and function. So let's just paste what we have earlier, and let's add the last one, Python setting up. Okay, so we can follow. Right, so we save. Now we have 3 posts created. Right, so we can, well, in our models, we can return like a string what the admin to show in here, like what we want to be displayed. So if we want our data like to be descriptive enough, then we want to return a string method in our models.py. So to do that, we just come into the models.py and we define a string method with the dunder function, like dunder double underscore, it's also called dunder, and then str, right? And we probably want to return self.title, right? So I guess that would be descriptive enough. From familiar with what I just did from the classes and objects class. So when you create a method, takes the self parameter, takes on all of these what's it called now? All of these variables that are instantiated with the class. So when you create a method and you input the self, this method inherits all of these variables. So you can access them with the self.title. Great. If you create another instance of posts and you want to access any of these variables, then you have to call that instance dot title. So that's just a little diversion. So let's move on. Now I created a self.title, and when I refresh that page, I should have the titles listed here instead. Great. So we have the Python syntax, Python loops and function, Python. You can also do a lot of things with Django admin dashboard, right? You can choose to have some other things. You can choose to have like this list out the post and also the author and some other things. So, okay, so we've been able to, so let's just do a quick recap. We started off by creating a repository on GitHub, cloned the repository. We created a virtual environment with ppenv. We installed Django. We started a new project. We created a new app blog, and then we created our models posts. It's these fields, and we added the model to the admin. We created a new super user, logged in into our dashboard, and then we're able to add posts, right? So at this junction, I want to ask if anyone has any question, right? If you do not have any question, then I would have to ask question and I would expect a response.
So I have a question.
Okay, fine.
So you see on the admin you have Django administration, right? Mm-hmm. Can you change it?
Yeah, the Django admin dashboard is totally customizable. You can change the whole interface to whatever you want it to be, right? Totally.
So how do you change that?
How do you change Django administration?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so from like your admin.py or from Django Imbued, right? There's how you can access this particular page, this template, and you can create like a different template and like import how do I put it? the template is going to like inherit some of the already, like what you have here already, and then you'll be able to like override all of these things. I'm sure probably we are also going to go over that. But yeah, that's just like how you can go over. You have to create a template. I'm going to show you how to create a template, and then we'll see how we can change this. So
Okay.
yeah, Frederick.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, fine. Jella.
Yes, thank you. Going back to the database, if I'm understanding you correctly, so there's a certain database that automatically is assigned to where you showed us where the SQL 3 Lite was. So is that normal for most Django installations, or does it change?
Okay, so when you start a new Django project, by default, Django starts with the SQLite 3 database, right? So, but you can change that to either those databases I listed earlier here, right? Listed
Okay.
on the documentation. So you can change to any of these other four, or you can just stick with SQLite. But for production purpose, right, it is not advisable to use SQLite. So you probably want to go for PostgreSQL or MySQL database.
Okay, one other question, please. With those database, so when we were doing the assignment for this week, I created my records and everything like that, but I signed out. And when I went back in the next day, all of my records were gone. So for some reason, it didn't save to the database. Is that because we were using the shell to create those records, or did I do something wrong to where, like, when we create those records, should it continue there once we log out and log back in?
Okay. Eniola, please, can you answer that?
Sorry, Yala, can you repeat that?
So she's
I noticed. Go ahead.
Sorry, continue.
Okay, you want me to say it?
Yeah. I need you to repeat.
No problem. I was saying, when I did the assignment for this week and I created all of my records for the database, but I noticed I logged out of everything and I went back in the next day, but all of my records had disappeared that I had added to the database. So I was wondering, is that normal, or did I do something wrong? Or was it just because we had created the records using the shell?
Okay, so to answer that, I think because like you said, it's actually not normal. When you create a record in your database, it stays in the database as long as you do not delete the so there's a file attached. I don't know if Femi, please, can you switch to your VS Code? So there's this file attached. You should see it, a db.sqlite 3. Yes, that file. So that file actually holds the records of your, like, the data in your database. So when you delete that file, all the data, all the records in your database gets deleted until you run new migrations, you migrate, and you actually create records. So, in the migrations folder, the migrations folder holds all your migration, all your database tables, but it doesn't actually hold the data in the database. Now, the db.sqlite 3 file actually holds the data in your database. So as long as that file is not deleted on your Django project, your data will still remain intact. In fact, if you have to push to GitHub and anyone is someone else is cloning or forking that repo, the person will still have the records itself, the data in your database. The person will still have that record. So I think either you deleted it or you actually failed to save it. But for more details, you can actually DM me, so we'll talk more about it down. Since this is
Okay.
like, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay.
Hey, I actually got a question to kind of backtrack earlier because like you made a my blog project folder and then you also made a my blog app, and I was wondering like what is the difference between the two? Because on my side, like I got pretty much the project done without creating the app within the folder. So I was just kind of curious.
Okay, so all of these folders were automatically created by Django, but the name was specified when we ran the command. So when I created the project, that was when I ran Django dash admin start project. I imputed my underscore blog to be the name of the project. So what it does is it creates a folder, my blog, and in that folder, it creates another folder with that same name, but that folder contains your configuration files for your projects, right? And then when I created the application, that was when I ran Python manager start app, I specified the name of the app to be blog, so which is what you have in here. You understand?
Kind of, because like when you start when you did the command my star app, like it created like where you at right now, the admin file. Well, for me, it didn't even create the apps file. I don't really understand how you got the apps, and it didn't create the views for me either. So I'm just like kind of curious, like how you got those files.
They were automatically created when you run. Okay, so let me just do this again. When you run Python manage.py start app. So let me say want to create an app school. Now when I click on enter this command, it's going to create a new folder, school, and then in that folder, it will create this migration folder. It will create this under init file. It will create the admin file and all of these other files automatically. So I did not create any other file. I haven't created any other file yet. I'm still going to create some a file, but I haven't created any other file yet. So these were automatically created, right? So probably, I don't know. Are you sure you run this command? So, because then if you run this command, I'm 100% sure you have this, right? Okay. So yeah. Okay. So we.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Like, but I don't know.
All right, fine. Probably.
But also, could somebody like share the YouTube channel? Like, what's the name of it, or like the link that I can like watch other videos as well that's also been recorded?
Okay, so the last office hours that we did, the link was shared right to the channel. So probably we are going to send it again. And for this one, we're also going to upload to YouTube and share the link. Right. Okay, that's fine. So Miss Sylvie says she's having an issue installing INV. So before when I was starting this class, I started with the PPM. So as I said, the recording is going to be made available. So when we share the recording, you can go through it from the beginning, and you would see how I did that. So, but just to repeat myself, what you need to do is you have to install PPM, right? So you would run pip3 install PPM, and then once it installs, go ahead to do PPM shell. So PPM shell will create a virtual environment and it will activate it both at once, right? So we are moving on. Great, so we have created some data in our admin now, and next thing we want to do is we are going to create a new template file, which is an HTML file, and we are going to get these details from our DB. We are going to render it to our HTML file. So let's go ahead now and create a template folder. So to do that, we need to create a template folder in the apps. Yep. So you have to create a folder in your app directory, which is the blog. So you have to make sure this is templates with the S, right? So and you click on OK, and in the template folder, you create another folder with the name of your app. So you create a template folder in your app, and then in the template folder, you create another folder with the name of your app. And in this blog folder now, I'm going to create an HTML file. So I can just call this index.html. Right. So let's just let's just add some very basic HTML. Right. So add, and then we might want to add a title in their blog app. So we create the body. Let's just say H1. Right. Okay, welcome to my blog. Fine. Okay, so now to render this to a page, like to our page, then we have to set up the views. We have to pass it to the, and from the views to the URLs, and from the URLs it goes to the page we want to send it to. So first and foremost, now I'm going to create like the views in here. So in a view, you would want to, right? So let's create a function to handle the views. I'm sure, yeah, we did this in, I think, 2 weeks back. So we create the view, we can call this index, we call this anything, and then we pass in request, which is just a parameter. And then we want to return render. This time we are rendering. So because we are rendering, and it's we use the render, and then also pass in return render requests. And then as a string, we specify this file we want to render. So we say blog, which is the folder, the directory in which you are with /index.html, right? So this is going to render the content of index.html, but we haven't specified the URLs we want it to go. So we, in our app directory, want to create a new file, urls.py, right? So so before we do that, we have to go to the URLs for the project and add our app. So import include, and then this would be path. So if you leave this empty, it's automatically going to assume you want to go to the home page, like just localhost, that is, you want to access. That means you want to access this, right? So just 127.0.0.1. So and let's so and then we add our app in the include. So this is going to take blog.urls. So this will go to our blog app and check for the urls.py. So let me just copy this. So in our urls.py, we will not be needing the admin. So clear that out. Not be needing this. We will not need include. And yeah, so what we'll do now is we import the views, right? So we do from .views import the name of function, which is index, right? Or you can just do from import views, so the same thing, right? So in the path, this is going to take 3 parameters. The first one is the endpoint. The second parameter is the function you want to render, which is views.index. And then this is an optional parameter. This is like an extra argument, which is name. You might decide to add it or not. So let's call that blog. So now if we, so also because we left the path empty, that means we want our index.html file to render to this page 127.0.0.1 without any other endpoint. So, right. Okay, so it says, okay, so let me see, why are we having this? Okay, so I think I probably just need to restart the server. Yes. And then when we visit the home page, we should see the text we rendered earlier from our HTML file, which is this, right? So where is it? Index.html. Welcome to my blog, and the title, which is blog app, right? So we have the title up here, blog app, and welcome to my blog, right? So yeah, before I move on, any other question? Wow, a lot is going on in the chat box. Hello, anyone there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Frederick, no question.
Yeah, I'm following, just that you are going very fast, so I'm not able to catch up.
Yeah, you should probably alerted me to that, so I would. So have I lost that? Probably you want me to go back and explain myself again.
Now, since you're gonna share this video, that's fine. I'll just.
Okay, Eniola.
Okay, so I just realized that some people here might find it, well, they might find this complex because not everyone has have probably gotten to the models parts. So let's just do a quick overview on what he is doing. So I think let's just do like a refresher. Now, Django it follows an architectural pattern it follows an architectural style, a popular architectural pattern called the MVC framework. Now, the MVC framework or the MVC architecture. Now, the MVC architecture is a software development architecture that separates our application into 3 layers. So we have the model layer, we have the view layer, and we have the controller layer. Now, if you notice what Femi has been talking about before we moved into templates, we talked about models. So in the MVC framework and the MVC architecture, the models actually deals with every business logic in our application. So it deals with all data-related logic, our database schema, our data types that we'll be specifying for our data fields and everything. Then we have the view and we have the controller. The view in the MVC framework actually talks about how the data that is in our model, how it is presented to the user. Then the controller is just a communication between the view and the model. But Django is different in that manner. Now, Django adopts what we call the MVT framework. Now, we have the views and we have the templates. Now, Django views, what Femi is talking about now is just talking about how our data is being represented, not just how our data is being represented, but what data is being represented to that user. So we could return a web response, a JSON response, as some of you might remember, like I think that was like the first assignment or so on Django. So we could return a response, we could return a web page. Now that web page is actually part of what the template is. Our templates deals with what we are presenting to that user. So the templates is a way for the user to see how the data in our database is being presented, how they are being displayed. So if you are finding this complex, I think Frederick mentioned that Femi is going too fast. Well, he actually isn't going too fast, but if you are finding this complex, please just know that this is just the very basis of the architecture, and it gets easy going forward. So it's really not as complex as you might think it is. It's just, for now, just bear with the lesson.
All right, thank you very much, Angela. Okay, so now we have been able to render our web page, like data of the web page, to these URLs, right? And then now the next thing we want to do is, I said earlier that we were going to also render data from our database. Okay, so I'm going to visit the other endpoints. Right. We're going to get these details. We're going to render to that page the author, the title, and the body. We are going to display it here dynamically. We are not going to like come into our index page and start typing it. So yeah, let's go into that. So first thing we want to do is, in here, in our views.py, that is where we like write the logic to do that. So to do that, first and foremost, we want to like query the table, we want to query the model that has this data. And to do that, yeah, we want to import from our models.py the posts models we created earlier. And to query the post model, to query the post, we need to do the posts.objects.all, right? So what this command does, it goes to the post model and checks for all the data stored in it, right, from the database and returns them as a query set. So we want to set this to a variable, so we can call this blog instead. So blog. So all of those query sets are assigned to posts. Now, what we're going to do next is we'll create a context, right, which is going to be like a dictionary type, and then we'll pass this into is like a key value pair. So each of those query sets, we are going to look through this dictionary, right? We're going to write a logic to look through this context and display each of those details. So in here, we'll pass in posts, and then this will take value posts, right? So you see what this does later, and then we need to pass the context in here, right? So I don't know, maybe Eniola has like something he wants to add before I move forward, because I feel I might think that's too advanced. So probably he has something he wants to add.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay, fine. So now we would, so to get the query sets, right? So from our context, we come to the index.html page, right? And then probably want to create a div, right? So in this div, we would write a for loop to iterate over the query set, and we would get the data like for each of these. It will return the author, title, and body for each of these posts, So to do that, we just need to write about, I think, 3 lines of code. So we need to do this. So we open the curly braces or curly brackets, and then also pass in percentile sign, right? You don't have to like cram this. These are like on the documentation. You can easily go to the documentation if you get stuck or if you forget anything. So what you would do, I said, you open this, and then in this in here, write a for loop. So you say for posts in posts, right? For post in post. So probably this, I would have to make this post because I'm looking over this context in here. So for post in posts, now I'm assigning just as if you are looping over a list, right? I think we all know what what I mean. So probably you have a list of integers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want to loop over these lists, right? I want to loop over this list. I just do for I in var. So what is each of these iteration does is it goes into the list, assigns one to I, and I believe we all know this anyways. So that's the same thing happening here. So this is like the real practical aspects of like what those things do. So you would want to close your for loop. So when you open up a for loop, you want to close it, and to do that, you just do end for, right? So you end that with end for, and then so now the next thing is this already gets our data, like it has our data in it. So we want to display it. So the first thing is we want to display our title. We probably want to display that as an heading. So we put the H3, and to display that, we open double curly braces, right? And in that we do post.title, which is going to return the title. And then the next thing is we want to probably return the author, so we can put that in a paragraph. So we do post.author, and we also have the body. So posts.body. Now, when we refresh the page, you know, I like have only three. I only have three tags here: post or title, post. But this is going to duplicate. It's going to duplicate this particular div for as much query set as we have. So for now we have three query set. That means we are going to have three of these divs or three of these in these divs in this div. So if I refresh this page, when I refresh this page, it's going to render those details, these details in here. So okay, so we have an error says post is not defined. So let's check that out. Let me see. In line. Okay, so you can get like where your error is coming from says views as pure line 9. So let's check that. Okay, so this should be post, right? Yeah, so that fixes that. And then let's refresh again. Great. So now we have those data, like each of those data rendered, the title, the author, and the body, title, author, body, title, author, body, because we have three presets. Do we understand the points? Like,
yeah.
Okay, that's great. So that's like a very basic way of rendering data from your database. You know, with just these few lines, I was able to get all the data. If I add more data, it keeps adding up here. So if I go to the admin and I choose to probably add a new post, right? But admin, I choose to add a new post, right? So when I save this, right? When I refresh this page, automatically it adds up here, right? It's yeah. So that's like a very basic way of getting data from your database, right? Now that is like the reading aspects. Now for the create, I think we've almost used 1 hour 30 minutes now, so I don't want to like put too much load. So I would want us to end the class here for today. Probably if we are opportune to have another live class, then we'll move on to forms, because when you want to post, like if you want to, you would notice that even on the Django admin, when we're adding new posts, it's opened up some forms. So if we want to probably add new posts from the front end here, that means we'll have to create forms. We'll have to write logic to handle the forms. We'll have to write a lot of things. So, but then that would be like for the next class. But for this class, this is where we're going to stop, right? Stopping here for tonight. I'm going to push this code. If I let me do that now. So I'll push this code to get up. So Django templates, right? And then push. So pushing gone. Right. So let's check to make sure this is updated.
How did you?
Yeah.
Can you try? Can you show us the way you push it again? Because I've been trying to.
All right. So it's very straightforward. What I did was in VS Code, right? That is why I use VS Code. It's also available in Python, anyways. So there's a extension called git length, right? So or source control comes up by default with VS Code. So in your source control, when you make any change, if I make any change here, right? Okay, so I'm making a change in index. So let me just say this is the change I made. So I'm going to push this. Let me just make a comment. So this is the change I made, right? and automatically it shows here that I made a change. You see, when I compare the two files I have, you can see the change I made is in green text, right? So now, this then, so from here I can commit, right? I have to commit first before I push. So I can do that from here, or I can even come to my command terminal, and just do git add, like normal git add, git commit, and then you add a commit message. You can do that. Right? So when you do this, you will see that it's already like when I do git commit, it's left like no more change. So, and to push, I can just do git push, or I come to here and do push. So if I press enter, it's still the same thing. Does virtually the same thing, right? So if I check my terminal, I should see the change I made, right? So you'd see the commit message I added, new message in the UI form. Now templates, and you see changes I made. So that's like very straightforward. So to have access to the repo, you can easily just click on the fork button here, right? So, and you're able to run it on your computer. So you can also add more, create probably more, how do I call it now? So you can create more models, like add more models, try to get render details from model, and probably you can even go ahead to like try your hands on creating a form to undo data and stuff like that. So yeah, this is going to be the end of our class. Thank you for coming. So let's take questions. Let's take questions. Right.
I have a question. So the last part where you were showing us how to render our data onto the website. Now, I remember earlier when we did the URLs, the views and the URLs class or assignment, but the commands that you're using for the HTML, is that something that we've ever gone over, or is that something that we just need to try to familiarize ourselves with, or do you have some resources that we could use to get a little more familiar with that?
Okay, so what's the question now, Stephanie?
It was actually me. I was just saying, I'm a little lost with the HTML setup that you were doing.
Okay.
And I just don't know if that's something that we've already covered or not. I do remember that we did the views and the URLs.
Yeah.
But is that new, or is that something that we should have already been familiar with?
Okay, so it's new. It has not been treated before. So
okay.
Yeah, so that is like the only parts that we added.
That's kind of new. Okay. And then my other question, I will be Googling and getting more information on those HTML commands and things that you were using, but I was just wondering, is that something that
like
we really need to
HTML command? But yeah, sure. You can check out 3 school for HTML commands, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was it. Thank you. And thank you for the class, both of you.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome. Okay, Stephanie, I saw your chat. So would you mind telling me which particular part you don't understand, so I can go back again? Stephanie, are you there?
Yes, hi Femi, I'm here. It was just like a basic observation. I think I can only speak for myself, but to be honest, I'm struggling with like the basic tutorials that you guys provide to us. So even to do that basic tutorial video is a bit daunting. And then to turn in the project is even more because, you know, so much more is added and we're beginners. And so it's, in my opinion, it's a bit advanced to begin with. So the beginning of this tutorial for me personally was very helpful, but now we've gone into like HTML is a whole nother level. I just feel like it goes from 0 to 100. So it's very hard, especially for people who, I'm not a beginner to coding exactly. I've done HTML and CSS, but as far as Python, I'm a very beginner. And so like, even for me, it's very difficult to even following along with the tutorials and the projects, but then even for this project, it's gone way beyond I feel our scope is. So yeah, it was a bit difficult to follow along with this one. That's all I meant.
Yeah, that's fine. I totally understand you, right? So okay, so yeah, well, I'm sure as you like go practice more, right? It's still they're like normal. It's normal if you don't get it now, right? So I'm sure as you like go continue to like practice more, and you know I'm happy you were able to get the beginning like the beginning part, right? I'm sure when you probably go over this video again and you have more like more enlightenment, right? And probably if you do not understand anything, then so you can definitely reach out. Yeah, you can definitely reach out. Yeah, sure. And Marjan, you also said you you have the same feeling. Do you mind sharing that with us? Hi there. Okay, so I think she left. Okay, that's fine. So
I think Marjan is still here. She just unmuted her mic.
oh, okay, okay. Yeah, Marjan,
Hello, Marjan. I don't think we can hear you.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think my mic was off. Sorry. Yeah, as Stefano said, unfortunately, I have problem with this HTML part that you added, and especially the Django part that you imported, like render something. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I haven't repeated enough, but I can't understand actually. And you did it again. And as the video that I watched before in LMS, again, I can't get it deeply. I can't understand, okay, what's going on? Maybe that's because I am so basic. I don't know.
Yeah, so Marjan, as I said earlier, right? It's total, it's like normal. It's totally normal for you not to probably get it at the first or probably even at the second try. So, but as you go along, as you like see more examples, more as you read more and as you practice more, these things will like they would come to you naturally. So that's how it is. You don't have to like cram these things. They are on Google. But the thing you have to understand is why and when to use this thing. So when you get that, yes, when you get all of those basic things, you'll be fine, right? So I think what to do is just keep practicing. If you do not understand anything at all, feel free to reach out to any of the mentors, right? So we
Yeah, I appreciate
yeah,
you really. Every time you are helping so much.
yeah. Thank you very much.
And yeah, you are right. Maybe I need to practice more to get it deep understanding. Thanks.
Right.
So, Afemi.
Okay, so I think Vali has a question. So Vali says, in MVT assignments. So Femi, can you just go through the chat? So
Okay, so what is asking says in our MVT assignments we do create delete record. So if I delete a record, I don't know which ID is deleted. Okay, so when I try to get ID first one returns error says ID1 is deleted. So in our admin page, objects are displayed with the name we use, the so string. Okay, so are you saying, are you asking how you would know which record we deleted?
Yes, I wanted to know like because the Django adds every record with it, it gives the primary key, right? We are not
Okay.
assigning the primary key. So in case if I delete some records, how to know which record is deleted? Because I try to retrieve the records with the object's name. So I don't know whether the ID is deleted or not. So when I try to retrieve a ID which is deleted, so it returns some attribute error. So I want to know how to
I'm sorry,
hide the
Vali, can you speak louder?
am I audible now?
Yeah. Thank you, Vali.
Yeah.
I think I get your question, right? So that's when she deletes like an object from the database, how will she know which of those objects she deleted? Right.
Yes,
So
exactly.
because when she tries to access it back with the ID, it returns an error that it's already been deleted, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any?
Okay, so you recall that for you to delete a record from your database, you need to first get the record. So you need to fetch the record. So Femi, please, can you let's use a test record. Can we delete one of the records? Yeah. So let's just try to delete one of the records.
From admin, or I should open up a shell?
No, from the shell. So let's use the shell, please. So I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Python shell, with the Django shell rather. So if you're not familiar with the Django shell, you can just view your Django shell as the way our Python shell works. So we can easily run Django computations on our Django shell. So you have to specify the app.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So let's try to. So if I get you very well, Valley, so let's try fetching the first item. So let's assume we have like in our database, because when you are okay, so I think I need to put this out there. Now, when you're actually building your own application, when you're actually working on an application you want to build, you don't delete items from your shell. So your Django shell is just for testing purposes. I don't know if anyone is understanding me, but your Django shell is just for testing purposes. So it's you as a developer, you are actually just testing to see what models, what records are on database, what models do you want to delete and all. So you actually don't use the Django shell in actual building of an app, because most times you either work on them in your views.py. So I think that will be talked about in our next live session. We will show you how to work on how to delete items in your views.py, and actually work on create and delete and update them in your views.py. But just take note that when you are actually deleting a model now from your let's say your views.py, or from your interface itself, from the web page itself, you don't use the ID most time. Like, you use the ID to delete, you fetch the data. So most times you actually fetch using the data, the ID, or a unique value. So let's say Femi wants to delete the first item in that database. Yeah, we know that, well, by convention, Django gives automatically assigns an ID. It increments the ID, so 1, 2. But in the rare case that we do not know the ID of that item, now we can always get the ID of that item. So, Femi, please, can you like get an item without using the ID? Can you get an item with just the title? So.
Post dot object
Gets.
get, and then we have to include the title, right?
Yeah, so you have to just use the title. Now you have to take notes now that when you are putting the title, for anyone that's listening, you don't use you don't use quotation marks to specify the title, because your title is more like a variable. So, okay, I think that's Python environment setup. And okay, so
Okay, so are you saying I should remove this?
yeah, just use the title. Like, get it from the title, not the ID. Like, title is equal to.
Okay. Okay. So title equal to, and this should,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Now, so Valley, if you take notes, yeah, we are not fetching it using the title. Yeah, please click enter, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you notice, we are not fetching the item using the ID. Yeah. So yeah, you can also fetch it using a unique value. Now, we know that the title here in this case is unique because of the fact that there is no other post with that title. But if you are using a post with, like, where they have similar titles, yeah, you actually get an error. You get I think it's a duplicate key error. I can't remember the name of the error, but you most definitely get an error. And now that is because the get function, the get method, it only fetches a unique item from the data. So it checks your database and fetches the unique item. Now, since we don't know the ID, we can always get the ID from the fetched item now. So Femi did not assign it to a variable. So Femi, please, can you assign it to a variable? Like, just use the post is equal to.
Perfect. I think I got it now.
Oh, you think you understand?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, great,
Okay.
great.
All right.
Perfect. So do we have any other question before we
Yeah. This is Frederick. Before you go, Femi. So when you create your template, do you have to add it to the settings, like the template in the settings?
No,
Do you have to add the direct? Yeah,
you have to make sure that your directory is template / the app name.
Oh, okay. So if you do that, then you don't need to add it to your.
No. But when you're like trying to access it from views, then you have to specify the blog. This blog is referring to this blog created in your template, because automatically the Django knows it has to go to the templates directory to get your index.html file, right? So we have to get the blog / index.html. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming to this live class. The recording will be made available probably tomorrow. And yeah. Have a nice day or night wherever you are. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.